The case featured in this episode has been researched using police records, court documents, witness statements, and the news. Listener discretion is advised. All parties mentioned are innocent until all opinions are my own. It was the early evening hours of Sunday, April 19, 2015. Vincent Viafore and his fiancée Angelika Graswald were trying to enjoy a kayaking adventure in the Hudson River, but the water was cold and choppy, and they were not adequately prepared for the conditions. For one, Vincent wasn't wearing a life vest, and his kayak was missing a drain plug. As they tried to cross the river, leaving from Bannerman's Island and heading towards Plum Point Park, disaster struck. Vincent's kayak started to take in water, eventually capsizing, leaving him to drown in a choppy river. Angelika called 911 on her cell phone from her kayak, but by the time emergency services arrived, it was far too late to save her fiancé. His body wouldn't be recovered from the water until a month later, when Angelika was questioned about how things had taken such a tragic turn. She made several statements that raised the alarm, and had detectives wondering whether this was truly an accident, or if she had planned his murder. Then there was the detail about the missing drain plug, which she admitted to removing from his kayak herself. And then there were witnesses who claimed that they saw her pull Vincent's paddle away from him, intentionally keeping him in the water. Her motive: a $550,000 life insurance policy. According to investigators, so dim the lights. Put your phone down and listen to the story of Angelika Graswald, dubbed the kayak killer by the media, who some believe was treated unfairly because she's a woman, while others think she got away with the perfect murder. So let's jump right in. Angelika Graswald grew up in a middle-class family in Latvia. Her father was a police officer for a time before changing careers to work as an administrator at a trucking company. Her mother was a homemaker who was very much in charge of child rearing. Angelika always enjoyed spending as much of her time outside as possible, whether it was swimming, fishing, or camping. She was very much the kind of person who was always looking for her next adventure. So after graduating from university, she decided to place an ad in the newspaper looking for employment as an au pair. Working for a family as an au pair would offer her the chance to travel and see the world, maybe even learn a new language. She was excited just thinking of all of the possibilities. She landed her first au pair job, working for a Norwegian family who was living in Greenwich, Connecticut. Her chance to experience living in the United States, while she enjoyed being abroad in North America. She found the job to be challenging. So after just 6 months, she quit, and instead she applied to work at a local bar. This would allow her to stay in the States while having a much better work-life balance. Over the course of the next decade, while still living in America, she would be married twice and divorced twice. She was young and lonely without having her family around her. So things seemed to move quickly in her romantic relationships. Unfortunately, they just didn't work out, but she had a lot of positives in her life too. She found a passion for photography, and she had the opportunity to take some courses online, landing her job as a camera operator for some time. Even after that employment ended, she never stopped taking pictures. She loved to document the beauty of seemingly mundane things around her. Angelika began volunteering at Bannerman Castle, which is this beautiful historical, abandoned military surplus warehouse that looks like a castle. It's located on a small picturesque, non-inhabited island in New York. While working as a volunteer there, she took beautiful photos of the gardens and the river. And she even gave the other volunteers discs containing all of the photos for them to have as a keepsake. She was known as a charming, sweet, hard-working, and vivacious young woman who was generally just very kind to the other volunteers and visitors to the castle. In September of 2013, while she was working at Fishkill restaurant, 36-year-old Angelika met and began to date 46-year-old Vincent Viafore. Though she was 10 years his junior, she was actually older than the girls that Vincent typically liked to date, who were quite a bit younger than him. Like in their 20s, Vincent and Angelika had a lot in common. Not only did they both love the outdoors, but they had both been divorced twice before, and now they were looking for a fresh start for the real thing. According to friends around them, they just couldn't get enough of one another. They wanted to spend every minute together. Vincent really seemed to have his life together. He had a great job working with the NYS Office of General Services, Design and Construction Department, as a certified code enforcement official and a senior project manager for over 20 years. He was also well liked by just about everyone, including his ex-wives, who he was still on good terms with. And he also had a large group of friends. He was known to be the life of the party. His sister would say, quote, "Vinny was a good-hearted person. He loved life, loved people. He would be the center of attention everywhere he went. He would do anything for anybody." Things moved quickly between the couple. Within just a few weeks of meeting, Angelika moved into Vincent's condo, and then just 5 months later, he proposed to her with an onion ring at a hibachi grill. They seemed to be very much in love and happy together. They had plans to marry the following summer in Latvia, but shortly before the wedding, they called it off according to those closest to the couple. They had begun fighting a lot, and there were even times when Vincent had threatened to throw Angelika out of the condo later. Angelika would accuse Vincent of pressuring her to do things in the bedroom that she wasn't comfortable with, like having her be submissive to him, and also participating in threesomes, which just wasn't her jam. Still, they stayed together, and they tried to work it out, and that brings us to April 19th, 2015, the day of the kayaking trip. Though the couple woke up hungover that morning for a night out, they were determined to go on this kayaking trip. It was an unusually warm and pleasant day for mid-April, but the weather was supposed to turn bad later that evening. They really should have called the whole thing off, because they didn't get going until around 4:30 p.m. that night. According to Vincent's sister Laura, he texted her to let her know where he was going, and he even included a diagram of the area, like a map, something that in hindsight she would find unusual. He had never texted her a map of where he was going on any other outings that he had taken. But hindsight is 2020. The couple set off from Plum Point, and they planned to kayak over to Bannerman Island, where Angelika was a volunteer. Angelika had with her a purse, and she was wearing a life jacket over her sweatshirt. Vincent had his phone, a camera, and a day bag, but he opted not to bother with a life vest or any kind of wetsuit. It would take them about half an hour to reach the island, and once they got there, they had plans to do a sexy photo shoot, something that they like to do quite often. But it was too cold for the fishnet stockings that Angelika had brought with her. Instead, they walked around the island, drinking a few beers and taking a few less sexy photos of each other. And then the weather began to turn, and they decided that it would probably be best to head back to Plum Point before it was too late. They got into their kayaks and they headed down the Hudson River. Just after 7 p.m., the wind was picking up and the waves were growing, some as high as 3 feet, and Vincent's kayak, it filled with water and ultimately capsized. Vincent was plunged into the cold water with no life vest or wetsuit on. It wouldn't have taken long for him to begin to lose all of his gross motor skills because of the freezing temperatures of the river. At approximately 7:40 p.m. 911 dispatch gets a call from Angelika Graswald, and here is a clip. "Tell me exactly what happened. We are kayaking, my fiance flipped over. He's in the water right now. Did he have a life test on? Yeah, he has. He has something that he's holding on to, buddy. It's getting very bad. I don't see him anymore, Angelika. Angelika, can you hear me? Angelika, are you still with me? Okay, Angelika, can you hear me? Angelika."
Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.